short post, they put me in career residence for another 4 years. So when I got out, I went to work in United Kingdom Hill for 5 years. I was 15 years old when I went underground. I worked there for 5 years. So when I quit, I went to Vancouver. I stayed in Vancouver for 8 years. I started working for a company down there. Got into construction. And one day I just didn't want to go to work. And I said, I don't belong here. So I quit my job there and came back to Yukon, caught the bus. When I got to Teslin, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. Here's my grandfather sitting on a bench, waiting for me. I didn't tell anybody I was coming. Didn't even tell my mother or anybody I was coming. So I got off the bus and I asked my grandfather, how'd you know I was coming? He said, we called you. I said, call me? How do you call me? I never got no phone calls. I said, he said, yeah, we called you. Grandpa's up there getting gas for the boat. So where's Grandma? She said, oh, she's sitting in the boat. He had the gas in his hand. He said, come on, you got lots to learn. We got to start teaching you some of the old Indian ways. So I spent 18 years with my grandparents. You know, Frank Morris and Mary Ann Morris. My grandmother is the brother or sister to George Morris or George Johnson. They named the museum after him in Teslin.
You're from Monterey?
He was the first one to own a car in the Yukon First Nation. Very, very first. Hi Dennis. How you doing?
Oh, this year comes out, I'll be older. I feel good about it.
So I learned how to hunt. You know, the residential school took everything away from me. Took my ability away to learn how to speak my tongue again. They really did a good job of beating it out of me, I guess. But I learned how to trap, learned how to hunt. You know, my grandfather taught me all Frank Morris. Is one of the best years I ever spent in my life, my entire life, with my grandparents. There is no TV, no newspapers, no yelling, no swearing. I never heard my grandfather cuss on my grandmother once. Never. They're such When they walked through the forest, you couldn't even hear them. I asked my grandmother one time, I said, where do you go to pray? She said, right here. This is my church. I pray on the land every day, she said. The land provides for me, feeds me, clothes me. So, that was pretty neat when she said that. I never heard that expression before. This is my church, she said. She was a pretty neat lady. My grandfather was neat too. Spent many hours in a cabin, probably big as his room. Used to listen to the wind blow. Grandfather told me lots of stories about the people that resided there. You know, how we came there. My grandfather told me stories about when he was a boy, he remembered being on the ice, going on big ice, he said, and trading goods like furs with the Russians, he said. The inland Tlinkits came inland to trade furs with the people that were residing here. We're American citizens, originally. We came inland to trade with the Carmacks, the Dawson, Champagne Ajax. We had different routes that used to come here into the Yukon. Some of our famous trails are still used today by the white men. The white men has claimed our trails. It was all original Tlingit trails, like the Chilkoot. That's Tlingit trading routes. That's where we used to take the furs out into the coast. We took it over to Russia and traded furs with them for their cast iron frying pans, rifles, axe, knives. Because the people here in the Yukon didn't know how to work with iron yet. It wasn't Hudson Bay that introduced all these goods to the people that were residing here. It was the Tlinkits who brought all these goods in. My grandfather said when the Hudson Bay came here, the Tlinkits chased them out. You know, my grandfathers were pretty famous. They never once I seen when they're always talking about the Alaska Highway, never once I see or hear the mention of First Nations guiding these white people through the mountains, through the swamps. Never. I don't think our people got credit for doing that. I think if the American Army tried to put the road in by themselves, they would have been lost. You know, there's lots of people that guided them. There were people from Watson Lake, people from Tasman. They had a big camp in my grandfather's place they call Marleyville. It was a funny thing, you know, was talking to Grandpa one time, sitting out by the campfire, they had a campfire by the lake. So they cleared all the land there. I said, how come there's no trees here, Grandpa? He said, well, when the American Army were going through, they cut all the trees and they plowed all the land up, and they had tents all over here, he said. It's a funny thing. I said, well, I see some pictures with black people in there. I said, where'd they stay? He said, oh, they stayed away, you know. He said, they're about 3 miles away from there. He said, the black people didn't stay with the white people. He said, they stayed about 3 miles down the road in the bush. He said, lots of these black people were freezing to death because they weren't used to the cold weather. Huh? So the First Nations started helping the black people, the black men that were there, right? We give them mitts, my grandfather said. We make them moccasins. We taught them how to make fires. My grandfather said he cooked for them. So it's another thing you never see or mention. The black people were here building the roads too, huh? All the credits went to the white people, you know, even when they were cutting the ribbons. I seen that on TV. You know, you never see the First Nations there. I think lots of the elders were hurt when they weren't mentioned that they got it. Quite a few of those army across our land. But I hunted with lots of old people. I wanted to learn more, so I went to Haines Junction, started hunting with the old people up there. Ed Isaac, I hunted with him. Billy Sam. I try to hunt with all the old people I can get get a hold of. Like the real old people. Like these people up here, they're not the real old people, eh? The real old people are like George Johnson, Frank Sidney. That's what I call the real old people, eh? I know most of these people up here. My mother. Yeah, I learned how to trap with my grandfather. He said, how to catch beaver is you take the glands off the beaver and you sprinkle it around. There was always he used to always cut down these cotton trees and sprinkle the beaver scent around the tree. Beavers are very curious animals, very territorial. Huh? As soon as they smell another beaver coming into their territory, they come up and investigate it. That's how First Nations are smart on that. So it was pretty neat. Like my grandfather told me that they used to make trap or snares of, they used to weave spruce tree roots. They used to weave like a big, those nets. As soon as a beaver goes in the house, they would set this net there, made out of these roots. And they used to dry the hoofs of the moose or whatever they killed. They killed caribou, they would dry the hoofs of. And they used to make rattles out of them. So when you caught a beaver in this trap, the rattles would start making noise. My grandfather said you had about 15 minutes to get the beaver out, or else the beaver would chew its way out there. We didn't have the technology of what the way people were using the traps. We used to snare moose, you know, before we had big guns. We used to snare our moose. You know, we used to set traps for them wherever they were coming through the mountain paths. Our old people used to set snares for them. You know, they used to catch sheep by making big nets and setting these nets and chase the sheep into them. They also used to do that for rabbits, you know. It was a totally different way of living back then. You know, there was clan systems set up. If somebody killed somebody in the village, we had ways to deal with it, you know. It wasn't like this European system was brought in, you know. Everything was foreign to us, you know. Whatever they brought in with them, they brought their disease, they brought their education, whatever. You know, they brought in their systems and took our systems and threw it aside because they thought their system's better, you know, their justice system. Often wondered, you know, where would we be today if they just left us alone, you know? Just about everybody in the Yukon was affected by this residential school. Just about everybody was touched, you know. You know that, Mom. You went there too. I knew what it was to be alone, you know, being constantly tortured by these people every day. I often wondered why, you know, I was being tortured. What did I do wrong, you know? I often wondered if there was a God, you know. Why did God let that happen to us? Why? You know, if there was a God, he would have came down and put an end to all this stuff that was happening to us. I still carry it today, it's still there. You know, they always talk about truth and reconciliation. But how do you forgive people that, you know, start torturing you when you're 4 years old till you're 16? I think lots of the alcohol problems, lots of the drug problems are all stem back to belittling crushed the Indian right out of us. The guy who signed this into law, McDonald, was half crazy. You know, he was the Prime Minister of Canada. My grandfather also went to residential school, Frank City. It was in the 1800s that they started thinking about putting us into residential school. They wanted the minerals, they wanted the water, they wanted the land, so there's one way to get us off the land was to gather us up and put us under one roof. You know, while we're in residential school, the people started taking our land and our water. You know, I often wonder how my mother and my auntie coped when they took us away. Yeah? There were 13 in our family, and 7 of us went to residential school. My grandfather told me one day there was no more laughter in the village. It was just quiet. No more children playing outside. It was just like somebody important died, he said. The whole village was quiet. So you used to go outside and just listen to the wind blow. I'm sure most of these people up here that are around us all attended residential school. We fought like hell to get a piece of our land back. In the end, I think we got shafted. Because we only got 17% of our land back. Only 17%. My grandmothers used to say we're never conquered, we're never signed our land over, we never gave it away. So how did we end up with 17% of our land? But the winds are changing. I think the First Nations are finally getting back on their feet after 150 years of dominations by the Europeans. Maybe one day things would change. You know, I thought it would change with my father, but it hasn't. I thought it would change with me, but it hasn't. Nothing really has changed. We're still in the same old place. You know, the people that immigrate into our great land here, they call it Yukon. Most of these people that are just immigrating into our country have more rights than the First Nations, you know. We're still under the DIA, you know. If somebody want to ask me something, go ahead. Here.
How did they make the traps for the moose?
Pardon?
How did they make the traps for the moose? Did you ever make one?
What they did was the wind would cut be at Babish, and they would cut it, and they would braid it. Keep on braiding until it was about that thick. Then they would, it wasn't a trap, it was a snare, and they would put the trees where the moose was going to go through them. And you would set the snare. It was just like rabbit snare, right?
Oh.
And they would tie this big babiche to a tree. And they would check every day. Grandfather said they went there one day. I seen one. It was what they call 3 aces. The Americans named their mountains 3 aces. Before the white people came, it was One Sheep Mountain. Because that's where people used to kill the sheep on. But my grandfather said there was a moose in there one time. They caught a moose. There was lots of starvations back then. It was pretty neat to see. I still seen where they set the snares at. And the babiche was still there. Anything else?
So with your healing from residential school, you said you went and lived with your grandparents?
Yes. I lived with my grandparents close to 18 years ago. I taught myself how to read, how to write. I didn't think they taught us anything when I went to the residential school. I didn't know how to read, you know. So I didn't understand a word. So I went down, I came back to Wales here and bought a dictionary. And just learn what we were talking about. Some of the words they were using were, for me, it was quite big. And so I would look it up in the dictionary and I would listen for it when they were talking. It was pretty neat. I read about European history, read about English history, American history. All the Americans when they first started coming over, the Italians, Christopher Columbus when he landed in Vancouver. Read a lot of books about the Tlingit people, you know, the white men that were staying with our people started reading about our people. So I read a lot about them. Read a lot about Plains Indians, the American Indians. Australians, people over there, you know. And most of all, I started reading about, you know, the people that were residing on our land, like lots of old people. Also listed a lot of stories my grandfather and my grandmother were telling me. It was 1936. My grandfather, Frank Mars, Dave Johnson, George Johnson, they built a cabin up in Tesla at Morley Bay. It's still standing yet. I couldn't believe it. Like, my grandfather said they found a boat, a lifeboat. It was all wrecked on a beach, so they took it home, they took it all apart, and they made that boat exactly the same, like a lifeboat, right from scratch. They said they built a boat with just an axe, they said. Wow. The boat's still in Tesla. You ever go to Tesla? Go to George Johnson Museum. The boat's still there yet. It was pretty good. I watched my grandmother make skins. She taught me how to sew, how to tan skins, how to tan beaver skins. My mother also taught me how to sew. But that's one thing I couldn't conquer is how to speak my language. I could speak a little bit, but I'm not very fluent in it yet. Lots of our languages are dying with these old people up here. The first generation of the old people are up here. They're the first generation of the old people. You know. They're the ones who inherit this, what's becoming now. You know. If you really look at them good, you know, you ever really have a look at them? They're always like wandering. Look at their eyes. Like, they're always, the way they're looking is they're wondering where people are going at. We're not there yet.
Where?
We're not there yet where we used to be.
How do you envision that happening?
Maybe not in my lifetime. Maybe down our generations. Maybe your children will see it. It took me years to figure out what our old people are talking about. Years. They would tell you something. You know, it never comes to you till one day and you go, oh, that's what you're talking about. What I'm trying to talk about is that one for proud people. Very proud. Took our songs away, they took our, the way we believed. They introduced us into a foreign religion, Catholic, Protestant. You know, one time we're out trapping, it was winter time. We're in about 250 miles in, me, my grandfather, and my grandma. We went in by dogs. And one day it was dogs started our dogs. And this priest came up. He was all mad at Grandpa and Grandma. He said, you know what's the day? And I said, no, just another day to us. He said, well, it's 4 days past Christmas. He said, I've never seen you at Christmas. I said, baby Jesus is born. We killed the moose. My grandmother was cutting the meat up. She stopped and she looked at the priest and said, you know, before you white people came, there was no Christmas. There was no Jesus born today. Hey, who says Jesus anyway? She said, everything we see about the Jesus is white. Is Jesus a white man? She said. The priest couldn't answer. They sure put the First Nation to a tailspin, you know, bringing all the religion.
So, over the years I've been involved in recording elders, doing all these things like style now. And there's one phrase I used to hear you mention every now and then, hard times are going to come. And their wish was that the young people would pay attention to the lifestyle living off the land, especially because right now the way things are heading in the world is pretty grim. And we're so vulnerable up here. In fact, when we rely on food system on the side to bring goods to us, that can easily be disrupted. So they're saying that if you have the skills, they know that you'll be able to survive.
I heard that so many times, you know, Bob, that exactly things you're talking about. I shot a moose one time up in Second Beaver Creek in Tasman. And me and my grandfather, my brother, and our two dogs, we packed it out. And, you know yourself, the old people like eating the guts right away. So Grandma was sitting by the lake washing these guts up, getting ready to cook. The only thing grandfather had was a small little radio that he kept. He would turn on once a day. That's the only outside communications that he brought. He wanted to listen to see what's going on in the world. Huh? So he would look at his times, oh, news is on. That's the only time he would turn it on. Right? And it's when the white people first landed on the moon. Right? So me and my brother were listening, and they're announcing that there was a guy on the moon. And the moon was full, you know, and Tasman. Lake was calm, no wind. My grandmother was still down by the beach washing, and the moose got up. I said, Grandma, I went down there, I said, Grandma, there's a man on the moon. Oh, she just looked. She said, things are going to change now. Things are going to change. The weather's going to change. People are going to start having hard times, like Bob was saying. Because our people, I think our culture is being pulled away from us. You know, they did it to us in the residential school. And that's why I really went back to my grandparents to try to learn what they took away from me. I didn't go back to school like Dave or Mike or like you, Bob. I went to my people. I went back to my people. was down in Arizona. He said it's all flooding down there. The roads are washing away, land's washing away. That's in the States, isn't it? That's just crazy. The world is getting warmer. Like people up north, I know quite a few I worked up there in Yellowknife. And hear the elders talking about that too. The world's changing. There's more ice. We're having the same problem here in the Yukon. There's more ice. There's hardly any freeze up somewhere. It's getting crazy. So what do you think about the Truth and Reconciliation Law? Did you agree, or do you think it's good for our people?
I think it's good that people start talking about what happened to them. Because a lot of times people are holding it inside. And there's so many people that thought there was bad things that happened to them, and they were the only ones that were affected by it. Once they heard other people talking, they start sharing their stories too. I think that's good stuff. A lot more work to be done.
Yeah, there's lots of work to be done. Lots of our elders are dying. We're the second generation of elders now. We're not the first, you know. We've seen different things that happen to us and our people. These people are infected with the first blow of the white man's way of thinking, you know, and pass it on to us now in a different form, like putting us in a residential school. But the infection goes back further, you know, goes into the Carcross. Right now, the people in Carcross are having a hard time trying to decide what they're going to do with that land where that school was built. Because there were so many people that died there, right? Lots of children are unaccountable. When they died, they say, oh, they died of disease. My suggestion was that they would have a potlatch. Every time we'll put a potlatch on for the people that they lost. I don't know what they're going to do with that land where that school was built. People really don't like that land no more.
Which school? Which school?
Chalupta, or what was the name of the school up in Carcross?
What's that?
The residential, yeah.
Chula, yeah.
It was a pretty hard school too. My grandfather said, Frank Sidney said there's one supervisor was always picking on this one boy. The boy his name was John McGundy. John McGundy comes from Carmex. The way they got him was his grandmother found a wolf skin. She said, hey, Johnny, you take this wolf skin over to Hudson Bay and you sell it. We need some food. I was talking to Johnny about this. So he took it across the bridge, or he walked across the ice, and he took the Hudson Bay. The guy gave him some money for it. He was just gonna walk out and go to the grocery store. When the cops caught him. I think he was about 10 years old. Said the cops and the priest caught him. He said, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be in school?" School? He didn't even know how to speak English, he said. But they took him from Carmack's and they brought him all the way over to Carcross without even telling his grandmother where they would take him. So he spent 16 years here going to school. And he went back to Carmack's and he sent all his people died off. His grandmother. They didn't even tell him when his grandmother died. It says, pretty hard. It's like I always say, how do you forgive people who've done that to you? Where do you start? How do you forgive them?
My dad said it's not yours to carry, so it's theirs, so just,
I think we carry the kings and kind of, I talked to some of the people that survived Germany, I talked to them, I met with them. We carry the same kind of symptoms they do.
from the Holocaust?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In residential school, they didn't call us by name. They used to give us numbers. And then when they wanted to talk to you, they said, 152. You'd be sitting there and you go, put your hand on it. That was me. I was known by 152. Everything on my clothes is 152. My tooth, my coat, my bag, my shoes. I remember when I was in residential school, it took them 5 days to teach me how to lace my shoes up, how to tie it. I never wore shoes before I went to residential school. It was always moccasins, But I remember getting tortured for 5 days because I couldn't do a simple thing. We're always praying. They were always telling us how to pray. Pray, pray, pray. Praying to me was foreign. This religion they brought over was not my religion. It's one of the biggest things that the government left out is our right to practice our religion. But when other people sue them, they always include that religion. But they wouldn't take the responsibility of taking they took our religion, our culture away from us. They wouldn't give us a why.
Now that we know why.
Yeah, we do.
So did you teach how many kids do you have?
I got 4.
4 kids. How many grandkids do you have?
I got lots. It's a funny thing, you know, whatever they did to us is, if you look at all the residential school survivors, not very many of us have stable relationships. We don't. That's why there's so many children in the system. They're always making money off us. Always. They take our children and they put them into the system. They did exactly what they did to us, but now they're paying people to look after our children. They get $1,600 a month per child.
But not your children.
Not my children, no. I managed to hold on to my children. I'm not very close to my children. So I don't know what it is. Maybe I don't trust myself, or I don't know.
Do you feel like you're still here and you still can make amends with that? Kind of like you're still living your purpose, right? And do you ever feel like there's still hope for that to reconcile?
That's pretty hard to say.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to say. I've talked a lot with old Indians down south about this. Like I'll always say, hard times are coming, or still coming. My grandmother told me before she passed away, you know, that the earth's gonna open up. And it's starting to open up now, you know, with the flood. Our old people always knew there was something gonna be happening, you know. They're always talking about it.
So in closing, what kind of message do you want to bring to people?
Maybe there's still hope for us. I hope there's hope left for our children. I hope there's still animals on the land for our children. There's still fish in the lake for our children. That there's still fresh air for us to breathe. That we still can drink our water. And the government of Canada to recognize us that we are humans. We're not slaves. We are human people. We're just not a number. What they gave to us. You know, I never heard the churches come forward and took some of the blame for what happened to us in residential school. The truth is always covered up. The reconciliation, I don't know.
What does reconciliation mean to you? Actually, I'm not sure.
So to me,
Well, we talk about truth and reconciliation.
to me it doesn't mean very much.
Do we understand what
What?
it means?
Why should I forgive somebody who tortured me? give somebody when you're, I look at my little girl now, she's turning 4 years old. Somebody to come in and take her and teach her what they want to teach her. My mother and my auntie don't have no say-so in what they're going to teach her. How do you forgive somebody who does that?
I don't know that you can.
Talk to some elders up north. You know, they said, if we did that, they would kill us all. If the First Nations or the Eskimos or anybody else who'd done that, First Nations, we did that to white people, they would kill us all.
I don't know that, personally, I don't know that you can, and that's a personal thing, I don't know that you can forgive trauma that has been forced on you. And your self has been kind of removed, right? I think there might be a place where, in order to continue as a people, you know, as an individual, you have to put that somewhere so that you can continue. Whether it's just being able to, you know, and that just depends on individuals and their abilities. It depends on groups of people. It depends on lots of things. But find a place for it. So either as individuals or a group of people, to put it so that you can move forward and take your power back. Take power back. But I mean that in a sense of, I don't really understand how, I kind of have the same attitude as you. I don't know how you can forgive it. All you can do is take some charge of it, or we, or whatever, take charge of it in order to be able to move forward and take back land or life. And maybe when people start having some trust in that, then maybe I don't know the forgiveness part. I don't know that that's important. What's important is you find a place for it so that we can, you know, continue, live. I don't know. That's as far as I can get with it.
No, in 1979, I approached our leader, asked him to take the government and the churches to court and what they did to us. But Harry Allen said, or not Harry Allen, but Dave Joe said, we're dealing with the federal government right now. We're trying to get our land claims settled. 1979, and wanted to start pursuing to get our power. I think if our people were healthy, we wouldn't have got to 17% of our land back. My elders told me, healthy people make healthy decisions.
And in a stronger place to make stronger, take on bigger decisions.
Well, I think we still get shot at the end anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, He got a territory of all the place in the world where the most land that's not been destroyed by building on it, whatever, and there's 17%. And what, I don't know the details of land claims enough, but what lands are they? What lands is it? You know, what's that 17% made of, divided of? And it doesn't.
Look at that right there. Maybe that's a vision of hope. Children dressed up in together. Maybe they'll make more healthy choices for us. They'll take over what we've started.
Yeah.
It's
Kind of hard to put the herd on the shelf. Leave
hard,
it there.
yeah.
It's kind of hard to put the herd on the shelf and leave it there and continue your journey.
And you can't, and when I say find a place for it, I don't mean to put it on the shelf and forget it. I mean, just find a place within you that you can, it's not to keep it at its,
Maybe recognize it.
yeah, maybe, I don't know, it can't be forgotten. It shouldn't be forgotten.